What happened to this place? Benjamin Hartley muttered under his breath, stepping out of a rental car and gazing across the street at what used to be his family's most beloved cafe. The brick building still bore his father's name, Hartley's Brewhouse, but the heart of it felt long gone. It was a Saturday morning, once the cafe's prime time, when families lined up out the door and the scent of cinnamon rolls filled the air. Now, only a few customers lingered near the window, and two walked out frowning, one shaking her head in frustration. Ben adjusted his cap and pulled his hoodie tighter. It had been over a year since he'd last stepped foot inside this location, store number 4 of the 9 he now oversaw. After his father passed, Ben had thrown himself into corporate work. Payroll, vendor negotiations, legal forms, everything but the floor where it all began. He couldn't remember the last time he'd spoken to a barista by name. Online reviews had started stacking up. Rude staff, cold coffee, long waits. When Ben asked for answers, the district manager, an overly confident man named Darren, shrugged it off as a temporary hiccup. But something told Ben it was more than that. So that morning he didn't walk in as the owner. He walked in as just another tired customer. And what he would find behind that counter would change everything. Ben Hartley hadn't set foot in his father's favorite cafe in over 12 months. Not since the funeral. Not since he inherited the entire 9-store chain and moved into a corner office with more spreadsheets than soul. He always told himself he'd stop by, just for a coffee, just to see how it felt. But life got busy, and so did the weight of running a business without the man who built it from scratch. Store number 4 in the chain had always been special. His father used to manage it personally, knew every customer's name and remembered how they liked their drinks. But now, judging by the negative online reviews, rude staff, sloppy service, cold coffee, something was wrong. Ben needed to see it with his own eyes. So he let his beard grow in a bit, switched his usual sport coat for a faded hoodie and jeans, and dug out an old pair of prescription glasses. He parked across the street and crossed in silence, heart pounding. Inside, the cafe smelled of burnt espresso and old syrup. The music, far too loud for a sleepy Saturday morning, throbbed from a Bluetooth speaker near the pastry case. One of the counters had a film of stickiness that hadn't been wiped down properly. Ben got in line behind a mother trying to keep her toddler balanced on one hip while digging for change in her purse. Behind the counter stood a young woman with platinum blonde hair pulled into a messy bun. Her phone was tucked under her apron strap, and her attention was divided between checking her nails and avoiding eye contact. When the mother stepped up to order, the barista sighed audibly and muttered, "Next." Without warmth, Ben was next. He offered a polite smile. "Large black coffee, please." The girl said nothing. She tapped the register, held out her hand, and avoided his gaze entirely. "No thank you." No confirmation. Nothing. He paid in cash and stepped to the side, watching her clumsily pour a lukewarm cup before handing it off without a word. Taking his drink, Ben made his way to the back of the shop, settling into a shadowed seat near the hallway to the employee break room. He wasn't sure if customers were even allowed to sit there, but he wasn't here to follow rules. He was here to listen. The cafe was mostly empty now. Just one other man scrolling on his phone. Ben sipped the coffee, bitter and barely warm, and took in the silence. That's when he heard it. 2 voices just out of sight, drifting in from the hallway near the back counter. And what they said next made his blood run cold. Ben Hartley sat still, coffee cooling in his hand, as laughter echoed from the back hallway. "If one more moron asks for almond milk," a female voice snapped, "I swear I'm gonna spit in their drink." Ben recognized the voice immediately. It was the barista who had just served him. A second voice, male, chimed in with a bark of laughter. "You should have seen what I did yesterday. Some guy tried to complain his coffee was weak, so I told him, 'That's what you get for ordering drip at a real cafe.'" They both burst into laughter, cruel, careless. Ben's stomach tightened. His father had taught him that hospitality wasn't just about coffee. It was about dignity. And here, in this place that still bore the Hartley name, dignity was being shredded behind a curtain of fake smiles and corporate blind spots. The girl went on, her voice sharper now. "I don't even care anymore. This place is a joke. We're so short-staffed. They won't fire us. We basically run the place." Then came something that chilled Ben to his core. The male voice, smug and certain, added, I told Darren we should stop wasting time training the new girl. She's too slow. Told him straight up. Either she speeds up, or we cut her hours. Ben sat frozen. There was a new girl? And what kind of district manager lets baristas decide who gets scheduled? The voices faded as the two baristas returned to the front. Ben rose from his chair just as they stepped back behind the counter. The guy, tall, lean, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, caught sight of Ben and stopped mid-step. Hey, can I help you? He asked. Ben stared at them silently. Then without a word he turned and walked out. Outside, the autumn wind bit into his hoodie, but Ben didn't feel it. He crossed the street to his rental car and dropped into the driver's seat, staring through the windshield at nothing. His jaw clenched. He thought of the hundreds of mornings his father had spent behind that same counter, wiping tables, greeting regulars by name, serving dignity with every cup. And now this? Ben pulled out his phone and called the only person he still trusted in the company. Lee, he said as soon as she picked up. I need a full staff list for store 4. Schedules. Everything. And find out when the new girl works next. There was a pause on the line. Is everything okay? Ben looked back at the cafe one more time. No, he said. But it's about to be. The next morning, before the sun had cleared the rooftops, Ben Hartley stood beneath the faded brick overhang behind store 4, steam curling from his coffee as frost clung to the edges of the staff parking lot. He'd been there since 5:45 a.m., hidden in plain sight, watching, waiting. According to the schedule Lee had sent over the night before, the new hire Ava was opening the store that morning, alongside the very same 2 employees he'd overheard laughing about customers and mocking their own coworkers. At 6:23, a white Toyota pulled into the lot. A young woman stepped out, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. She wore a knit beanie pulled down over her ears and carried a canvas tote slung over one shoulder. For a second she just stood there, eyes on the back door, visibly steeling herself. Ben recognized that body language. It wasn't just tiredness, it was the look of someone bracing for impact. He followed behind her quietly, keeping enough distance not to spook her. As she unlocked the door and stepped inside, Ben caught the door with his foot and slipped through. She spun around, startled. Oh, I thought I locked that, she said quickly. You did fine, Ben replied with a reassuring smile. I'm supposed to be shadowing today. Name's Caleb. She blinked, then nodded, offering her hand. I'm Ava. First shift. He shook it. Her grip was light but steady. Nice to meet you. She led him through the narrow hallway to the cramped break room, 2 lockers, a dented mini-fridge, and a folding table with half a box of powdered donuts. Ava moved efficiently, tying her apron without fuss, but there was a hesitancy in her actions, like she was used to being second-guessed. You'll probably be on dish and restock, she said. They usually start people there. Ben nodded. Sounds fair. You like it here? Ava shrugged slightly. It's fine. I just need the hours. I'm in school, so I take what I can get. Before he could respond, loud footsteps echoed down the hall. The tall barista from the day before, Logan according to his name tag, entered the room chewing gum, earbuds around his neck. You're early, he muttered to Ava without looking at her. Then he spotted Ben. Who's this? New hire, Ava replied. First day. Logan looked Ben up and down. They keep sending us people. Don't know why. We're already full. His tone was dismissive, territorial. Ben smiled politely. Just doing what I'm told. You're on dish, Logan snapped. Don't get in the way. As Logan pushed past and headed for the front, Ben leaned slightly toward Ava. He always like that? Ava offered a small, tight smile. Mostly. Just keep your head down, you'll be fine. Ben said nothing. But in his mind he noted every word, every glance, every silence. He wasn't there to shadow. He was there to witness what his father's cafe had become. By 6:50 a.m., the lights in the cafe flicked on and the day officially began. Ava moved through the pre-opened tasks with quiet focus, checking pastry displays, aligning cup stacks, wiping counters that had been carelessly cleaned the night before. Ben took his place at the dish station, sleeves rolled up, rinsing milk pitchers that still had dried foam clinging to their sides. The sink area was a mess. A cracked plastic tub held leaking cleaning bottles, and the drain board wobbled on 3 legs, tilting everything sideways. But Ava didn't complain. She worked like someone who knew not to expect help. At 7:15, the first customers began trickling in. Ben kept his head down, but his eyes were everywhere. Mira, the platinum-haired barista from the day before, barely acknowledged Ava's good morning as she fiddled with the espresso grinder. Logan barked orders from behind the counter like a drill sergeant, his voice too loud, his tone sharp enough to draw blood. By 7:45, the cafe was packed. Orders poured in, mobile tickets printed non-stop, and the line stretched to the door. Then it happened. A woman at the counter juggling a purse and a coffee sleeve snapped, "I said no whipped cream." Ava apologized quickly and reached for the drink to remake it, but Logan snatched it from her hand and dumped it into the sink. "Do it again," he told her coldly. Then, with a patronizing smile, he turned to the customer. "Sorry, she's still learning." The woman gave Ava a look that made her shrink into herself. Ben saw it all. The way Ava's hands trembled slightly as she made the drink again. The way her smile faltered, but she forced herself to say thank you as she handed it off. He stepped close enough to speak without being overheard. "You were fine," he said gently. Ava gave a small nod, but didn't speak. Her eyes stayed low, her expression tight. By 8 a.m. Mira was cutting corners. No sleeves on hot drinks, underfilled lattes, misread names. Logan's instructions became more clipped, more condescending. Ava meanwhile tried to hold the line. Tried to do everything by the book. Tried not to crack. At one point, Logan barked across the cafe. "Caleb, you want to be useful and dump the mop bucket? It's full." Ben glanced toward the back. "Where's the mop sink?" Mira waved a hand without looking up. "We don't have one. Just dump it out back by the dumpster." Ben hesitated. "That's not health code." Logan turned. "You planning to report us, new guy?" Ben didn't reply. He took the bucket, walked out to the alley, and saw the stains, 3 dark rings where mop water had been poured out before. It stank. When he returned, Logan was back on his phone. Mira was texting while restocking syrups one-handed. Ava was ringing up a large order, apologizing for the delay. And Ben had seen enough. This wasn't mismanagement. It was a culture of indifference. A slow erosion of standards, led by people who had never been held accountable. And in the middle of it all was a young woman just trying to do her job with dignity. Ben returned to the dish station, scrubbing a milk pitcher with more force than necessary. Around him the cafe churned forward, noisy, tense, chaotic. Ava was still holding it together, but just barely. Her movements were quicker now, more mechanical. She didn't smile anymore. Didn't joke. She just worked. Head down, voice soft, trying not to draw attention. By 8:30, the energy inside the cafe was brittle. Mira was skipping steps left and right, serving drinks with missing ingredients, handing out lattes labeled with the wrong names. One customer approached the counter holding a cappuccino. "This was supposed to be a cappuccino," he said. "It is," Mira replied, not looking up. "It's mostly milk." "That's what a cappuccino is," she said flatly, then turned away. Ben watched the man toss the drink in the trash on his way out. Logan saw it too. "Next time," he muttered, "just call it a dry latte. They won't know the difference." Mira laughed. Ava didn't. Ben stepped up beside her at the register. "You need a second?" he asked quietly. Ava shook her head. "No, I'm good." "You sure? Your hands are shaking." She paused, then nodded. "I'm just trying not to screw up. I need this job." Ben lowered his voice. "You're not the problem here." Ava looked at him for a beat, then said softly, "You don't know them yet." Before he could respond, Logan's voice rang out again. "Caleb, can you dump the mop bucket already? It's full." Ben glanced to the back. "Where's the mop sink?" he asked. Mira didn't even turn around. "We don't have one. Just pour it out by the dumpster." "That's not health code," Ben said flatly. Logan's head snapped up. "You planning to report us, new guy?" Ben didn't answer. He grabbed the bucket, carried it outside, and tipped it onto a gravel patch beside the dumpster. The stench hit him instantly: sour milk, old coffee, and chemicals. The ground was slick from repeated dumping. Nobody cared. He stepped back inside. Logan was scrolling on his phone. Mira was restocking with one hand while texting with the other. Ava was fielding a complicated order alone, apologizing with every breath. Ben's mind was made up. He dried his hands, walked to the break room and pulled out his phone. "Lee," he said when she answered. "I need the regional manager here by tonight. We're shutting this location down for staff retraining. I want the floors scrubbed and every person reevaluated." There was a pause on the other end. "Everything okay?" Ben looked around the dim back room, the flickering light overhead, the lingering smell of burnt cheese. "Not even close," he said. "But it's going to be." Then after a moment he added, "Find Ava's number. I want to meet her after shift. Somewhere quiet. Just the two of us. No supervisors. No consequences. I want to hear the truth." That evening, just past 7 p.m., Ava stepped through the side entrance of the town's quiet public library. She clutched her coat tightly around her, her shoulders slightly hunched from a long, exhausting day. Her canvas bag hung low on her back as she scanned the room. Near a window, seated at a small table with 2 paper cups and a manila folder, was the man she had known all day only as Caleb. He stood when he saw her. "Hey," Ava said cautiously, polite but guarded. "You wanted to talk?" Ben nodded. "Thanks for coming. Have a seat." She pulled out the chair across from him, setting her bag on the floor. The library was nearly empty, the quiet broken only by the occasional shuffle of pages or low whispers from a few students studying nearby. Ben slid one of the paper cups toward her. "Chamomile tea. I wasn't sure what you liked, but it seemed like a safe bet." Ava wrapped her hands around the warm cup, nodding slightly. "Thanks." Ben took a breath. "So my name's not Caleb. It's Ben Hartley. I own the cafe you've been working at." Her head snapped up. "Wait, what?" "I went undercover," he said calmly. "That store's been going downhill for months, and I couldn't get a straight answer from corporate. I needed to see it for myself." Ava leaned back in her chair, eyes wide, trying to process it all. "You're serious?" Ben nodded. "I didn't mean to pull you into anything," he continued. "But after what I saw today, I couldn't walk away." Ava was quiet for a long moment, staring into her tea. Then softly she said, "I almost quit last week." Ben looked at her carefully. "What made you stay?" "I need the paycheck," she admitted. "That's the only reason I'm still showing up." Ben waited, gave her space. Let her speak. "It's like you try to do things right," Ava said, her voice lower now, "but you're still treated like the problem. Logan told me I was replaceable on my second shift. I thought he was joking. Then Mira started freezing me out, leaving me out of tasks, skipping steps, blaming me when customers complained." Ben's jaw tensed, but he stayed silent, letting her continue. "They don't train anyone. They just throw you into the rush and get mad when you fall behind. And if you ask for help, they act like you're a burden." "How long have you been there?" Ben asked quietly. 3 weeks, she said. "And it already feels like a year." Ben slid the manila folder across the table. Inside were 3 printed staffing schedules. "We've been understaffed for every morning shift," he said. "And nobody's requested coverage." Ava frowned, scanning the pages. "That's why Mira's been doing closing and opening. I thought she volunteered." "She didn't," Ben replied. "Logan's been submitting schedules himself, and Darren's been rubber stamping them without looking." Ava leaned back in her chair. "So, they've just been doing whatever they want." "Not anymore," Ben said firmly. She looked at him, unsure. "So what now?" "We shut the cafe down for 3 days. We're bringing in a cleanup team and retraining every staff member. And you." He paused. "You've already earned your place. I'm promoting you to shift supervisor. It's not just a title. You'll have scheduling input, access to training, and a voice in how this place gets rebuilt." Ava blinked, stunned. "Why me?" Ben smiled gently. "Because you care. And because you didn't fold, even when it would have been easier to." By the time the sun rose the next morning, Store 4 didn't look, or feel, like the same place. A temporary operations crew arrived at 6 a.m., rolling in crates of industrial-grade cleaning supplies, replacing warped pastry racks, and pulling down outdated signage. The front door bore a bold new sign printed in clean black letters. "Closed for internal training, reopening soon." A few regulars stopped by, confused, peeking through the windows before walking off, curiosity etched on their faces. Ben stood just inside, arms crossed, watching the quiet transformation. The space smelled of disinfectant instead of sour milk. Machines were being deep cleaned, floors scrubbed, surfaces polished until they gleamed. Ava arrived early, hair tied back neatly, clipboard in hand. She moved with quiet confidence, no longer the nervous girl Ben had met 2 days earlier. She didn't ask unnecessary questions. She didn't hesitate. "The dairy delivery came late," she reported. "We're short on oat milk, but I flagged it with the temp lead." Ben nodded. "We'll reroute stock from the Midtown store. You good to help walk the team through protocol?" She hesitated. "Depends who shows up." At 7:30 sharp, Mira stepped through the door. She stopped short at the sight of the work crew wiping walls and reorganizing drawers. Her eyes moved to Ben, who now wore a charcoal blazer and had trimmed his beard. "No hoodie. No glasses. You're the owner," she said, her voice small. Ben gave a calm nod. "That's right. You're Mira, correct?" She nodded once. "No one was supposed to know. But things are changing," he said. "You're still on the payroll, but this is a clean slate. If you want to be part of the new team, you'll need to complete the retraining. Same as everyone else." She scanned the room slowly, lips parted. "So you're firing people?" "We're offering people a choice," Ben replied. "That's different." She stood still for a moment, then moved quietly to the back, still absorbing what was happening. Logan showed up 15 minutes later, wearing the same worn hoodie from the day before. He paused outside, peering in, jaw tightening as he spotted the changes. When he entered, his eyes locked onto Ava. "What is this?" he asked, voice low and sharp. Ben stepped between them. "Training. Restructuring. You're welcome to participate. You can't just come in and—" "I can," Ben cut him off. "I own the company. You've been running this store without accountability for too long. That ends now." Logan turned to Ava. "You told him everything." She didn't flinch. "I didn't have to," she said. "You did that yourself." Logan scoffed. "This is ridiculous. We've been doing the best we can." Ben's tone remained even. "Falsified time logs. Ignored health codes. Intimidated staff. That's not your best, it's abuse." "So I'm fired?" "You're not a fit for the future of this company. You'll be compensated for your hours, but after today, your access to our systems ends." Logan stood still for a long second. Then he shook his head and walked out, muttering something no one cared to hear. Ben exhaled slowly. One infection removed. One system reset. And for the first time in far too long, Store 4 was ready for healing to begin. By 9 a.m., the cafe was alive with a different kind of energy. Not frantic or hostile, but focused and quietly hopeful. The remaining team members began arriving one by one. Some sheepish, others confused. A few looked around nervously, unsure what to expect. But no one raised their voice. No one rolled their eyes. They read the posted sign, saw the crew hard at work, and fell into step. Ava stood near the register, clipboard in hand, her voice low but steady as she walked small groups through the new procedures. She outlined expectations clearly: cleanliness standards, order accuracy, respectful customer service, proper food handling. She didn't lecture. She didn't preach. She taught. Ben kept to the sidelines, watching her with quiet pride. He noticed how she redirected Mira gently but firmly when she reached for her phone mid-session. How she answered questions with clarity, never condescension. How, when someone asked why these changes were even necessary, she simply replied, "Because what we had before wasn't working. And we all deserve better than that." That single sentence, spoken without bitterness, seemed to settle something in the room. By early afternoon, the operations crew had finished deep cleaning the kitchen and installed a brand new mop sink near the back hallway. The laminated sanitation chart was posted on the staff fridge. A printed break schedule, staggered properly to avoid coverage gaps, hung beside it. Ava reviewed every line carefully. Ben joined her, glancing at the list. "Think we missed anything?" he asked. She pointed to the Saturday lunch hour. "We'll need tighter overlap on weekends. Between noon and 2, things pile up fast." Ben nodded. "Good catch." She turned to face him. So this setup, it's permanent? As long as it works, Ben replied. But it's not just about procedures. It's about culture. That takes longer to fix. I know, Ava said. But this is a start. He studied her for a moment. The hesitation she'd carried before was gone. Her shoulders were squared. Her voice grounded. This wasn't the same girl who had once apologized for shaking hands or for speaking up. You ever think about management long-term? He asked. She blinked. Are you offering? Not yet, he said, smiling. But I'm watching. As the day drew to a close, the cafe's new heartbeat settled into place. Of the original staff, only 3 remained. Ava, Mira, and a quiet part-timer named Theo, who, after days of staying silent, now volunteered to assist in organizing the inventory room. At closing time, Mira approached Ben as he locked the front door. I've been thinking, she said softly. I've worked in cafes since I was 17. I used to love it. Then it just became something to survive. She paused. I don't know if I can lead, but I want to like it again. I want to show up. That's a start, Ben said gently. Outside, dusk settled over the parking lot. The interior lights dimmed. The machines were clean. The air smelled of fresh cinnamon instead of burnt bitterness. 3 days ago, this place was crumbling from the inside out. Now it was standing again, on the quiet strength of those who chose to care. As Ben turned off the cafe lights for the night, he held the door open and handed the keys to Ava. You'll open tomorrow, he said simply. She nodded and took them without hesitation. I've got it. It wasn't just a key, it was a sign of trust. A symbol that something broken had been repaired not with grand speeches, but with courage, accountability, and care. Ben stepped back, watching as Ava looked through the glass at the cafe they had rebuilt. Not just physically, but spiritually. The counters were spotless. The air was warm and quiet. The exhaustion that once clung to every surface was gone. It had taken 3 long days to root out the rot. But now the heart of the place, his father's legacy, was beating again. Leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about listening when no one else does. Sometimes the greatest change comes not from authority, but from empathy. A business, like a family, is only as strong as the people who feel seen, heard, and valued within it. Have you ever worked somewhere that changed your life for better or worse? Or maybe you were the one who stepped up when no one else would. Tell us your story in the comments. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a real-life story that reminds us all. It's never too late to rebuild what matters.